Okay, so obviously Pokemon Sword and Shield came out a little while ago, but I really wanted to do a video about it, like reviewing and looking at some of the new Pokemon designs. And I guess because I'm a cynical person, I decided the best way to start off with this was to just look at the 5 worst designs from the newest generation of Pokemon. Let's do it. Okay, I should just state before we start that every time a new generation of Pokemon gets revealed, I always react really negatively, like straight away when I see them. Like every single one, I'm just like, oh my god, that sucks. Oh my god, that sucks. Because nothing will ever come close to the original Pokemon designs, but I feel like a lot of that is just nostalgia, and eventually, generally through playing the games and sort of looking at them and seeing them in a bit more detail, I start to actually like some of them. But I do feel like in every generation of Pokemon, there are always some just unnecessary, terrible designs. I'm looking at you, Dunsparce. Seriously, what's the point of Dunsparce? But with Sword and Shield, I found myself pretty overly disappointed with almost every design, which is why I've compiled this list of the worst 5 designs, in my opinion, from Generation 8 of Pokemon. And it all starts with number 5, Drizzile, or something like that. I don't know how to say it. So Drizzle or Drizzile is the first stage evolution of the water starter Sobble, who I also thought had a particularly bad design when it was initially revealed, and Drizzile really just sucks. And eventually it evolves into Empoleon, which is this weird humanoid lizard Pokemon that's also like a spy that's based on James Bond. I think it's supposed to be this nod to Generation 8 being based in Galar, which is based on Great Britain and the UK more broadly as a region. And originally I would have put Empoleon on this list, but actually Empoleon's design has really grown on me after I saw it from a few different perspectives. I actually really like that there's a Pokemon based on a spy, and I actually don't even mind Sobble that much anymore because I like that he's kind of like this shy, camouflaging little lizard, but I just really hate Drizzile. I just look at it and I think, wow, that's such a pathetic design in every way, and I hate everything about it. It's just so bland, and the only thing that kind of stands out about it is this emo side fringe that it's got, and it just looks so terrible. Often the middle evolutions of Pokemon starters seem to be these like angsty teenager style Pokemon if we're looking at the Pokemon evolutions as like a life cycle from sort of a baby or child to a teenager to an adult, and you see that quite apparently in most of them, but this seems to take that almost too literally and completely ruins it. Like, look at these original Pokemon starter middle evolutions like Charmeleon, Ivysaur, and Wartortle. All of them give off the angsty teenager kind of vibe, but they're actually designed properly and don't have these shoehorned human characteristics like Drizzile's side fringe. It's more about their expressions and the shapes of their bodies and their eyes that give that effect. Whereas Drizzile literally just looks like the lead singer of My Chemical Romance. He reminds me of those goth kids from South Park that try way too hard to be cool and different but just aren't cool or different. Like, seriously, there are so many other designs they could have gone for with the Sobble line, focusing more on the lizard thing as opposed to the spy thing that seems to be totally out of nowhere. And while I'm not that disappointed in Empoleon, I still think Drizzile could have been totally different. Seriously, look at some of these concepts of what Sobble's evolution line could have been by fans. Okay, so on to number 4, and honestly, this was one of the worst Pokemon designs I've ever seen in the history of the series, and I totally hate everything about this Pokemon and its entire evolutionary line. It's Cinder Ace. And I realize that I'm being quite critical of the starters in this generation because Cinder Ace is the final evolution fire starter, but it just feels like a complete flop of a design that no one would ever like or pick. He's the final evolution of Score Bunny, the fire rabbit Pokemon, and with Empoleon being based on a spy and James Bond, Cinder Ace is for some reason based on a soccer player. And I've played FIFA 2007. I know that soccer is big in England and the UK, but I still just think it's such a random concept to draw from for a Pokemon. His signature attack is literally him kicking a fire soccer ball. And I don't know why the Pokemon now seem to be leaning more towards these anthropomorphic humanoid kind of figures as opposed to just animals that have magical powers. Like, usually fire starters are the most popular, and you can see why. Look at a Pokemon like Charizard. He's just so elegant and simple in his design. He's just a dragon. And before you say it, I know there's even Pokemon like Blaziken who has like this humanoid figure to it, but I still don't mind Blaziken's design. It's not over the top with almost literally having clothing on it like Cinder Ace. It's just a fighting chicken. They were able to make a chicken Pokemon really cool, and they couldn't do it with a rabbit Pokemon, and it's disappointing. But looking back, you can definitely see this pattern with fire starters becoming more humanoid in the last few generations, with Incineroar being really humanoid and based on a wrestler, and Delphox before him being based on a witch. Even Emboar has more human-like qualities. It really does feel like Cinder Ace is the tip of the iceberg in how humanoid they can get, and they've just been periodically getting more and more humanoid since Blaziken. Pokemon like Typhlosion and Charizard are so much more organically designed. Put Typhlosion, Feraligatr, and Meganium, the final starters from Generation 2, next to Cinder Ace, and there's a marked difference in their designs. Cinder Ace honestly feels so artificial and gross, having to be based on a soccer player for some kind of weird cultural reflection. They never used to do that in the earlier generations. Feraligatr is literally just a big alligator, and he's fucking awesome. Typhlosion is a big animal that I don't even know, maybe an echidna or something like that. Meganium is just a big dinosaur. They're animals and they make sense with their evolutionary lines. What even is Cinder Ace? It's a weird, half-human, half-rabbit that belongs in a Looney Tunes cartoon with Bugs Bunny. Moving away from the starters, we come to this Pokemon whose design is awful, but I feel like in some ways it's part of the point. It's Cursola. So Cursola is the evolution of the Galarian form of Corsola, a Generation 2 Pokemon based on a coral reef. And obviously because of climate change, the world is being totally destroyed and coral reefs are turning white and being ruined. Cursola is basically Pokemon becoming Polydemon and trying to educate children on social issues while playing video games. And I guess I don't have a problem with that, and I think it's good to communicate these issues through the Pokemon, but I honestly just feel so sorry for Cursola. It literally looks like it wants to kill itself. It looks so unhappy and totally fucked up. Like, I don't think I've ever felt sorry for a Pokemon. I don't think I've ever felt sympathy for a fictional magical animal that is based on an underwater rock. Cursola just hates its life, and I'm so angry at the designers for making something that is this unhappy. The only thing I think of when I think of Cursola is this scene from The Simpsons.
Every moment I live is agony.
I actively hate that Cursola was made because I feel so sorry for it. Just look at its face.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
Right, moving on with Cursola, we're down to the top 2 worst designed Pokemon from Pokemon Sword and Shield, or I guess the bottom 2 worst designed Pokemon from Pokemon Sword and Shield, however you want to look at it. These are the top worst Pokemon. They're at the top of being the worst. And the next on the list is Galarian Stunfisk. So first of all, I just want to say that I don't even know why this Pokemon existed in the first place when it first came in Generation 5. Its original design had to be one of the dumbest, most uninspired Pokemon designs ever. It reminds me a lot of Dunsparce. It doesn't evolve, it's relatively weak. It makes me wonder why it was created. What purpose did this serve when they decided to make this Pokemon? Who would ever catch one and want to train it? Whose favorite Pokemon is Stunfisk? That's what I want to know. And it makes me angry that these useless filler Pokemon like Stunfisk get added to the games, which is why it makes me angrier that for some reason they decided that Stunfisk needed a new form for Sword and Shield, and we got this piece of shit. Granted, they finally gave us the far-fetched evolution we all wanted and needed for so many years, but I don't think that even makes up for this abomination. Just off the top of my head, here are 5 other Pokemon from Generation 5 that have incredible designs and totally deserve to have regional variants more than Stunfisk. Bisharp, Galvantula, Zebstrika, Swordsbuck, Excadrill. Honestly, I'm gonna say it, I probably would have preferred a regional variant of Garbodor than Stunfisk. What an absolute waste of a Pokemon. I actually wonder who designed Stunfisk and what they genuinely thought when he got approved to be programmed into the game, and why they weren't fired afterwards. I literally feel like the artist who designed Stunfisk was just like known as the office idiot, and the person who was approving the designs just felt so sorry for them, and he's like, yeah, sure, like, yeah, we can put Stunfisk in, he's great, thank you. Stunfisk is like when Ringo writes a song in the Beatles.
Hey guys, I wrote a song.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, good, Ringo.
Fantastic.
You know what? I'm gonna put it right here. Right on the refrigerator. That way we'll get to see it every day.
All right.
And finally, and I have no idea if this is controversial or not, this is my opinion on the worst designed Pokemon in Pokemon Sword and Shield, and definitely up there with one of the worst ever designed Pokemon ever. It's not Dunsparce, but this is a Pokemon that I hated almost instantly when I initially saw it. Ice-Q. So Ice-Q is this fucked up penguin Pokemon with a weird power that gives it this massive ice block on its head that eventually like melts or breaks and turns it into this form. And I honestly have no idea what they were thinking when they designed this guy. It's literally a penguin with a giant ice block on its head. It doesn't even make sense. I have no idea why this decision to make this guy was made. And I just don't know what they were thinking when they designed it. And why does it have this weird off-putting single thread of hair poking up out of its head? Why, when the ice cube is melted, does it have a weird blue ice face? Before the games came out, all of the Pokemon from Sword and Shield were actually leaked online very early, and when I saw Ice-Q, I genuinely hoped that the leaks were actually an extremely elaborate fake. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And you know they can do designs like this well, like look at the way they've done penguins in the past with Empoleon. Empoleon is an absolute boss that takes the idea of a penguin and mixes it with Napoleon and themes of war and military and does it fantastically. The entire evolution line of Empoleon really puts a nice twist on just doing literally a penguin with ice on its head. And they've adapted other animals for purposes of ice Pokemon as well. Beartic is a great polar bear Pokemon. It's pretty simplistic in its design, but it has this ice beard and a few other things that just sort of elevate it from just being this stupid penguin with an ice block on its head. Everything about Ice-Q's design is pathetic and off-putting. The face in this looks like it wasn't even vetted or questioned by anyone on the design team. It doesn't even seem to fit the art styles that Pokemon has ever had. It really does feel out of place and really lazy. And what sucks is when you look at the redesigns that fans have done of this Pokemon and how much cooler and less fucked up he could have looked. I don't know who did this, but this is a much better rendition of what it seems like they were trying to go for with this Pokemon. In some ways, I feel like it's getting to this point where fans are getting better at designing Pokemon than the people that are paid to design Pokemon. Sometimes I'm completely blown away by fan-made Pokemon and genuinely become disappointed when the real Pokemon are finally revealed. But what do you think? Who do you think were the best and worst designs of Generation 8, and who do you think is the worst designed Pokemon ever? Let me know in the comments. And thanks for watching this video. Like it and subscribe. I really want to build my subscriber base and start doing videos like this on pop culture, music, movies, and all those kinds of things every week. I want to do 2 videos a week. At the moment, I'm trying to do 1 a week at least, so subscribe. It'll really get me motivated to keep going. Share them if you like them. That'd be great. Also, check out my podcast, 20th Century Boy. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you podcast, it's on, and it's really good, if I do say so myself. And we put an episode out every week talking about these kinds of things. And also get onto Spotify and listen to my band, Release the Sounds. Our self-titled album is up there now. It's a blend of punk rock and comedy. And yeah, like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, radio.mike, Twitter, it's Radio Mike, and all of that. My name has been Radio Mike. This has been The Inside of My Mind. Thank you very much for watching. I genuinely appreciate it. Bye.